Masechet Sukkah Daf Nun He. We're starting at 54 on the bottom, and we're discussing the opinion of Rabbi Acha bar Chanina yesterday. He said that when we're counting the number of trumpets that we trumpet blasts that we have during the day, and when there are two musafin, then you blow 9 trumpet blasts for one musaf and another 9 for the second musaf. If it would be 3 on a day, then it would be 27 blasts. So that's Rabbi Acha's opinion. Against everyone else, the other opinion would be if you have 2 or 3 musafin, doesn't matter how many, you just blow 9 trumpets for the whole thing, no matter how many musafin there are. Now, this is going to depend on the songs. This trumpet blowing is really punctuating the song that the Leviim are singing, the Mizmor Tehillim. So if you're saying multiple Mizmorim, then you'd say have more blasts. If you're only saying one Mizmor Tehillim during the entire Musaf, then you'd only have 9 blasts for all the Musafin. So we're going to now today question Rabbi Acha's opinion. We're going to end up rejecting it. So let's see the sources. Metibe, Rosh Chodesh Shechal Liyot Bashabbat, Shir Shel Rosh Chodesh Doche Shir Shel Shabbat. If you happen to have any time of the year, Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbat, so you have 2 Musafin. So the Mizmor for Rosh Chodesh will override that of Shabbat, which sounds like you only say the one of Rosh Chodesh and not the one of Shabbat. Therefore, right, you're only going to have 9 trumpet blasts altogether. If Rabbi Acha is right, and you have trumpet blasts for this and for that, then that means you could say both Mizmorim. Why would you have to say that one Mizmor overrides the other? Okay, that's a good question. Amarav Safra. Mai doche lekadem. When we say override, we don't mean that you say only Rosh Chodesh and not Shabbat. It means you say Rosh Chodesh first, and then you say Shabbat. Good. So therefore we revived the Biacha. We are saying both. Ve'amai tadir v'sheno tadir kodem. Hold on. Why are you doing it in that order? We have the general rule that whatever is more frequent comes first. Shabbat is more frequent than Rosh Chodesh, so it should be Shabbat first and then Rosh Chodesh. So what's the reason for this law? Amar Rabbi Yochanan leda shehuk ba Rosh Chodesh bizmano. Because we want to announce to everyone that Rosh Chodesh has been decided. Right, this is still during the time that they're depending on witnesses, and so you want to make it more public. So therefore, you do that first. Everybody's like, "Oh, today's Rosh Chodesh," so it's a good reminder for everyone. Good. Hold on. Do we really need this announcement in order to tell people that it's Rosh Chodesh? That we're talking about in the Bet HaMikdash, right? I mean, even though the Sanhedrin is there, and that means the Edim come there, and but still, not everybody in the audience might know. Maybe they came after or before. So but actually, we have another way of announcing it. We don't need to wait till the song of the Musaf. Here's another way that we do it. De Tanan is actually a Mishnah, so we could Chelbe, even though it says De Tanya. Chelbe Tamid Shel Shachar Nitanin Mechasi Kebesh Ulmata Bamizrach. So this sign is from the placement of the parts of the animals that are for different sacrifices. The Korban Tamid of the morning, after we do Shechita and take the pieces of the animal, we put it on the eastern side. That's the right side of the ramp, towards the bottom, on the bottom half of the right side. We leave it there until it's time to actually put it on the Mizbeach. And general the musaf, if it was Shabbat, let's say, that you'd put on the left side towards the bottom. V'shel Rosh Chodesh nitanin Shabbat nitanin tachat karkova mizbeach ulemata. However, the one for Rosh Chodesh, that one was placed on the top half of the ramp, and so everybody saw that. Oh, look, there's some pieces of animal on the top half. Oh, that must be Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, since we already have that sign, we don't need now another sign that by singing to tell us to singing it first, right? The fact that doing Rosh Chodesh first, oh, that's the sign. We don't need that also. So the answer of Amar Rabbi Yochanan ledash Rosh Chodesh bizmano, and regarding that, the placement of the sacrifices, Rabbi Yochanan said, we know we have that as an indication that it's Rosh Chodesh now, today, bizmano, meaning on the 29th day of meaning the previous month is 29 days. Then now, so it's the 30th day is the Rosh Chodesh. So today, the answer is we have two indications. Some people will see this, some people will see that. Right? Some people like listening to the music and the song. They say, "Oh, wait, that's the Rosh Chodesh song. Oh, that's Chodesh, right?" And other people like more of the visual, and they're seeing it. Maybe other people don't have a good view. So the more indicators, the better. Excellent. All right, so we resolved that one, but now we're going to bring another challenge to the bi'acha. מתי בדתנא רבא בר שמעון, יכול כשם שתוקעים על שבת בפני עצמו ועל ראש חודש בפני עצמו, כך יהיו תוקעים כל מוסף ומוסף, תלמוד לומר ובראשי חודשיכם. תיובתא דרביעך תיובתא. So here we have an almost an explicit baraita that says, can it be? You might think that just like you do a tikiyah for every for Shabbat separately and for Rosh Chodesh separately, so too, meaning if it's just Shabbat, you do 9 tikiyot for that musaf, and for Rosh Chodesh separately, you would also. So too, if they happen to be on the same day, you would do an extra 9 for every single musaf, meaning you might think like Rabbi Acha, that's what he says. Talmud Omar, the pasuk comes and says, Ubrashe chodshechem, and that says, no, you do 9 tikiyot for all the musafin. And that is a conclusive rejection of Rabbi Acha. Okay, how do we learn this from the words Ubrashe chodshechem? We're going to see now here 2 ways. My Talmuda, Amar Abaye, Amar Kera, Ubrashe chodshechem, ukshu kol chodashim kulam ze lazeh. On the heads of your new moons. So since it includes them in plural, it means they're all the same. All the same. I mean, most of the Rosh Chodashim are not on Shabbat and not on any holiday, other holiday. So therefore, most of the time, you're only bringing one musaf and you're blowing it 9 times. And so by saying in the plural, every Rosh Chodesh is the same as the other. Since most of them are only 9, so too, even when it's on Shabbat, it's only going to be 9 tikiyot. So that's the comparison of all of them. That's the way Abaye derives it. A second way of deriving it, Rav Asher Amar Ketiv Chodshechem. So it says it without a yod. So you could read it in a singular. If you put a shiva under the shin, Chodshechem, right? Your month, 1 month. Uchtiv ubrashe. Yet it says plural, the heads of your month. So what's going on? What month has more than one head? Rosh Hashanah, because it's also Rosh Chodesh. It starts 2 things. And yet it says it's 1 month. So even though it has 2 heads, nevertheless, it's the same as 1 month. Even though you're bringing multiple musafin, nevertheless, you only blow 9 times. That's it. Good. So that is the explanation of the previous baraita, and that baraita conclusively rejects Rabbi Acha's opinion. And if that's not good enough for you, we're going to bring yet another one. Ve'od Tanya. Bechulo shel moed barishon mehayu omerim habu laHashem b'nei elim. Okay, so we know Shir Shel Yom. I've just brought a chart here of the Shir Shel Yom that we say now every day. On Sunday, we say Mizmor 24, 48, 82, 94, 81, 93. Okay, that's what we say. And so this is based on what the Leviim did during a regular week. But on Chol HaMoed, they sang different Mizmorim, although some of them overlap, interestingly. So on the first day of Chol HaMoed, so this is the second day of the holiday. They said, Havu LaHashem, that's Mizmor 29. Bashanim hayom omrim, ve'larasha amar Elohim, that's Mizmor 50. Bashelishi, this is not Tuesday, this is the 3rd day of Chol HaMoed. Ma hayu omerim, mi yakum li im mera'im. Mizmor 94, which we say on Wednesday. That's also Mizmor 94, but the beginning, the first half of it. Apparently, they would say half on one day and half on the next day, but maybe in opposite order. Okay, so that's curious. It is a long one, right? So, Bachamishi mehayu omerim hasiroti mesebe shichmo. That's 81, which we say on Thursday. So this is also said on the 5th day. So there is an interesting overlap between the 2 lists. Mashishi mehayu omrim yimotu kol moseh de'ares. And that would be Mizmor 82. which we say on Tuesday. So it's not exactly the same. Okay, why do we say each of these mizmorim on a daily basis? What we do, that's interesting, a class in of itself. I have a theory about that if you want to ask me one day. Okay, but anyway, that's the mizmorim of each day, and some of the commentaries try to explain what each day, what each mizmor has to do with each day. For example, Kol Hashem al Hamayim, Mizmor 29, and this is when we start bringing the Nisuch Hamayim. Okay, so and so on.
So is this specifically for Sukkot?
For Sukkot, we're talking about Chol Moed Sukkot. These are the songs that you would bring. Ve'im Chal Shabbat be'echad mehem yimotu yidacheh. Now, if any and Shabbat is in the middle of them, if there is a Shabbat Chol Moed, then yimotu, which is the one for the last day for Hoshana Rabbah, then that gets superseded, and you don't say that at all. In other words, it doesn't matter when Shabbat is. If Shabbat is, let's say, the second day of Chol Moed, so then you would say the normal one on the first day, Mizmor 29. For Shabbat, you'd say the Shabbat one. And then on the third day of Chol Moed, you'd say the one for the second day here. And the fourth day, you'd say the one for the third day. And you'd never get to the last Mizmor on this list. Got it? You push everything off, right? When Shabbat is Chol Moed, you don't just replace the mizmor of that day and skip it altogether. You push that day's mizmor off to the next day, and the next one off to the next day, so that in most years you do have a Chol Moed Shabbat. You wouldn't say mizmor 82, the last one on the list. Okay, now this is going to be the source of our question. Since you look, see how you push everything off. Okay, anyway, Rav Safra manach behu simana. If you want to remember each what with these mizmorim, they didn't have mizmor numbers back then. So instead, each of these is the first letter of the mizmor, right? He is for havu, and so on. Rav Papa manach behu simana hum habi. He disagreed with the order, and he instead of bet he has he bet. So he switched around the order of those two mizmorim. And if you want to remember, here's a siman for a siman, a mnemonic for a mnemonic. If you want to remember which of these two amoraim said which one, then you can remember ambuha de safre. Ambuha de safre. Ambuha is a Persian word that means a caravan. Safre is scribes. So think of an image of a caravan of scribes. Now the scribe is referring to Rav Safra. His name means the scribe, and his order was mem, bet, and then he, and in the word for caravan, it says mem, bet, and then he. So that's how, if you remember, just think of that image, and then you'll remember that Rav Safra is the one that says humberi, and you have to know the mizmorim, which one starts with a bet and which one starts with a he. Okay, so it's interesting. This just gives us a little hint into the mnemonic tricks that the rabbis used. We find the Greeks also think about when you're going to give a public speech and you have to remember this long speech, you would think of different images in a house, and you'd walk through the house and then remember. So this is one example of an image. You'll always remember a convoy of scribes. All right. Anyway, tiyuvta de Rabbi Acha bar Chanina tiyuvta. This is a rejection. How so? Because we see on Shabbat, the song for Shabbat is said, and the song for the holiday is not said, even though there's musaf on every day of the holiday. And so that the musaf pushes off the song of the day. If we followed the biacha, and we did musaf when we did trumpet blows for this musaf and for that musaf, then you wouldn't have to push it off. If it's the second day of Chol Moed, say that mizmor and say the Shabbat mizmor too. So from the fact in this source that we say, no, you push it off to the next day, means you only sing one song per day, and therefore only 9 trumpet blows per day for no matter how many musafim there are. And so this is yet another rejection of Rabbi Acha. We already said tiyufta. I don't know why we're ganging up on him. No, the answer is because we want to bring all these sources, so we learn the sources. All right, now, question. We're still fighting back. Rabbi Acha, he brought a baraita that said he wasn't making it up himself. He cited a baraita, and that baraita quoted a pasuk. It says yitke'u, and there's an extra word because it says again that so from the double word we said, that means that you blow two times for each musaf. So he had a source. So what are we going to do with that source? This is a good point. Amar Ravina, lo ma shemarichin batikiot. No, that source that said the extra word ditkeu, that wasn't teaching you that you should blow 9 and another 9 for another musaf, but rather when you have 2 musafin on one day, then blow them longer. Sound the note for a longer time to indicate, oh, we're doing 2 musafin. Maybe when there's 3, you'd have to keep it even longer. But it doesn't mean that you would do another whole set of blasts. Or another way of explaining it means that you add more trumpeters. So you have more people playing the trumpet for the added musafin. And so when you see that, oh, there's a lot of musafin. And that's the extra yitkeu, so we could fit the pasuk and the baraita just fine without Rabbi Acha. And therefore, we reconcile all of the Tannaitic sources. Okay.
This makes sense because we said before, Hu Tani Levi, Hu Amar La.
Oh, very good. Excellent. Rabbi Acha is the one that brought the baraita from the south, right? And we're like, wait, we don't understand what you're talking about. And he also gave the explanation of it, right? Now we understand why he's inserting the explanation. It wasn't clear because it was ambiguous. And there are, in fact, completely other explanations you could give for it. So that's why we're rejecting his interpretation of it. Great point. Okay, now we're going to move to Chutz La'aretz. This is a related topic, and we're going to see how it relates. The question is, on Chol HaMoed outside the land of Israel, we don't. It doesn't matter the korbanot here, but we want to know when we're reading Sefer Torah, right? Which day do we read? This is a practical question. So the problem is that on our first day of Chol HaMoed is actually the 3rd day of the holiday. So do we read Bayom HaShilishi, or it's Safek the 2nd day? So maybe we should read Ubayom HaSheni, right? And eventually you're gonna, if you pick one or the other, let's say you pick the 2nd day, right? So you're gonna in Chutz La'aretz is only 5 days of Chol HaMoed. So you're gonna read 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're not gonna say 7, right? Or since it's the 3rd day of the holiday, so we'll start reading on the 3rd day, right? So then you'll read 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but you'll never say Bayom HaSheni on any day of Chol HaMoed. So what do? We got to, chop off something in the beginning or the end. Abaye Amar Sheni Dache. Abaye said, he's going by the real day. It's actually the 3rd day of the holiday, even though you had 2 days of Yom Tov before. So don't say Sheni, just start with Shilishi and read that. Which, in other words, you'd read it outside of Israel the same as they do in Israel. Nowadays, today in Israel, on the 3rd day of the holiday, they read Bayom HaShilishi 4 times for every aliyah, and that's all. Good. Rava Amar Shivi'i Dache. Rava says no. The first day of Chol HaMoed, you have to read Bayom HaSheni because that's the first day of Chol HaMoed. This is the 2nd day of the holiday. So you have to read that. So you read 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you'll never get to 7. So you skip 7. Now, next opinion, Tanya Kevate de Rava, Imchal Shabbat liot bechad mehen yimotu yidache. Oh, okay. Support for Rava. This is how it relates to what we just said before. That's just the Braita that we just mentioned says that when Shabbat is Chol HaMoed, you push them off. So if you push them off, you end up never saying the last Shir Shel Yom for Hoshana Rabbah. And so that would fit with Rava, who also, even though it's a different reason and a different context, Rava is also saying, since we have to get rid of one because we have only 5 days, not because of Chol HaMoed Shabbat, but because we did 2 days of Yom Tov, but we have to skip one. So which one are we going to skip? The last one, just like they do in the Bet HaMikdash for a different reason. All right, what do we actually do? So in the Nahar De'ah, that's in Bavel, Amemar says we should skip around. Okay, so what does that mean, skip around? Here's a copy of Machzor. What we do is, since there's 4 aliyot, on the first day of Chol HaMoed, which is really the 3rd day, so really we should be reading the 3rd day, but it could be the 2nd day, Safek. So Kohen reads Sheni, Levi reads the Shilishi, Yisrael reads Shilishi again, and Levi reads both of them, right? So in the end, you're reading Bayom HaSheni twice, and by reading Bayom HaShilishi 3 times. So you get a little more preference to the astronomically correct day, but since it's Safek, it might be the 2nd day, we also acknowledge that. In Eretz Yisrael, you'd only read the same paragraph 4 times, whatever the actual day is. So this is great. Now we understand the source of what we do. Okay, and that ends that Mishnah. Okay, good. So now we still keep your calculators out. We still have to do a little bit more math because now we're going to talk about the various korbanot. And so in the Bet HaMikdash, all year round, there were 24 families called mishmarot or watches of Kohanim. Each one would take 1 week to serve in the Bet HaMikdash, and they would go around in a rotation. And that is what happened, except for the 3 Shalosh Regalim. On the holidays, all the Kohanim, all the families would come, and they would divide the holiday offerings equally. Okay, now we have to figure out how do they divide them equally on Sukkot. So we have a lot of korbanot to divide. So here's the system. Yom Tov Harishon Shel Chag Hayu Sham 13 parim Elim Shenayim V'Sa'ir Echad. I'll bring the Pisukim just so we remind ourselves, right, that each day regarding the parim is the only one that changes. And it starts on the first day with 13, and it goes to 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. Right, the 7th day of Sukkot, we have 7 parim. On the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret, we go down to 1 par. Okay, so that's the progression. Right, here you go, par echad. All the others stay the same for the 7 days, and those are Elim Shenayim and Sa'ir Echad. So let's calculate. How many korbanot are there on the first day? 13 plus 2 plus 1, that makes 16. And besides those, every day of the holiday, there are 14 kebasim. Nishtayru sham 14 kebasim, lishmona mishmarot. So if we take I'm going to do the math slightly differently. How many korbanot are there altogether? 16 plus 14. That's 30. 30 korbanot altogether that have to be divided into 24 families. So we'll give 1 animal to each family. Good, that takes care of 24. There's 30 altogether. That's 6 left over. So what are we going to do with the last 6? Well, 6 families will double up, and they'll take 2 animals on the first day. So B'Yom Rishon, Shisha Makribin Shenayim. V'Hasha'ar Echad Echad. On the first day of Sukkot, 6 families take 2 animals each, and all the other families take 1 each, and that works. Now, Basheni, on the second day, instead of 13 parim, we're going down 1, only 12 parim, which means 29 korbanot altogether. So how are we going to accommodate that? Hamisha makribim shenayim v'hasha'ar echad echad. So 1 less family will do double, and so only 5 will do 2 each, and the rest 1 each. We could do the math just as one last time, right? So if you have 5 doing 2 each, that's 10 animals, and then that leaves over 19, right, that are doing the rest. So 12 plus 19 is, did I get that right? 10. 10 plus 19 is 29. That's how many animals there are all together. Okay, so then you see how this works. Bashilishi, arba'a makribim shenayim shenayim. Since on the 3rd day, now this 12, 11, only 11 parim, so 1 less than the day before, so 1 less family will double up. Bashar echad echad. Barbi'i shelosha makribim shenayim shenayim. Bashar echad echad. Bachamishi, on the 5th day of Sukkot, Shenayim, only 2 families, makribim shenayim shenayim, bashar echad echad, bashishi, echad makrib shenayim, bashar echad echad. On the 6th day of Sukkot, only 1 family is going to double up, and the rest will have only 1 each. Bashivi'i, on Hoshana Rabbah, kulan shavin. We could figure that one out, right? We have the standard. The standard is we have 7 parim on the last day, plus 2 plus 1, that's 10. And there's 14 kevasim every day. So 10 plus 14 is 24. There's 24 animals altogether. There's 24 families. On the last day, it works out perfectly. Everybody does just 1. Okay, good. That's the system. Now, Bashemini, on Shemini Aseret, we have only 1 par. That's very special, right? Who's going to get that one? Chazru lepais kebar galim. So then they do a lottery, a new lottery. So that, right, you start from fresh, doesn't matter what you did before, a new lottery for the 1 pod on the last day. Amru, mi she'ekriv parim hayom lo yakriv lemachar ela chazrin chalila. Now, another rule is that during the 7 days, the parim are nice and big, much better than the other small animals. And so we want to divide them as evenly as possible. So we make a rule. If you got to do a pod on the first day, then you have to give over the turn to someone else, right? Then someone who didn't get to do it yet will do the next do it on the next day. So we can figure it all together. How many parim were there all together on all of Sukkot? 13 plus 11 plus 7, you get 70, right? The 70 parim, and there's 24 families. So that means, well, if each family got 3 of them, that would get up to 72. There's only 70. So that means almost every family is doing 3 parim over the course of the holiday, but 2 families only get to do only 2 parim. Okay, so and it's not going to be exactly equal, but it'll be almost. And the Gemara will discuss what we do with those 2 families. Excellent. So now, who is the author of this Mishnah? It seems it would follow Rabbi and not Rabbanan. What do they say? Here's a Braita, the Tanya, Par Haba Shemini, Batechila Mefayasin Alav Dibre Rabbi. The one pod that comes on Shemini Aseret. So you make a lottery, and that's exactly what our what the Mishnah said, right? You start all over again. Chachamim say, no, you don't make a lottery, but rather one of the last 2, right? That calculation I just said. If you have 70 parim and there's two that didn't do it, so you pick one of those 2. Which means you don't do a lottery. And the Mishnah said you do a lottery, therefore Mishnah is Rabbi and not Rabbanan, which is strange. Well, in a way it's strange. Rabbi is Biuda Nasi, who is the redactor of the Mishnah. Nevertheless, the Mishnah shouldn't just be only one minority opinion. So we say, Afilu tema Rabbanan, atu shete mishmarot, la afuse ba'eh. It could even be Rabbanan, because you still have 2. How are you going to decide which 2? They're fighting over it. I want to do it. I want to do it. So you do a lottery just for those 2. But Rabbi would say you do a new lottery for all 24, so anyone can pick it. Okay. Keman azlaha de Tanya. Now, the following Braita, we all want to know, who does it follow? Rabbi or Rabbanan? Kol mishmarot shonot u'mishaleshot. Chus mishne mishmarot. Every family gets either 2 every family gets 2 and even 3 times, except for 2 mishmarot sheshonot ve'en mishaleshot. They only get 2 and they never get to a third, right? So every family gets not only 2 but even 3. 2 families only get 2. Now, Nema Rabbi v'lo Rabbanan. This would seem to follow Rabbi, who says you leave off the last one. Shemini Aseret it doesn't count, and not Rabbanan, because according to Rabbanan, on the last day Shemini Aseret you pick one of the last 2. So according to Rabbanan, it really should be that all the families except for 1 get to do 3. Only 1 only does 2. So is this Baraita not Rabbanan? We answer Afilu Tema Rabbanan. Mai lo shidashu beparei hag. When we say they didn't get to do 3, we didn't get to do 3 for the Sukkot parim, which are the 70. But indeed, one of the families will be compensated with 1 par on Shemini Aseret. Excellent. Umay kamash ma'lan. Ha kamash malan mi shekri parim hayom lo yakriv machar ela chozrin halida. Okay, if that's the case, that even according to Rabbanan, then what do you have to say this whole baraita for? What is it even teaching us? Oh, it's teaching us that you have to make sure that they're divided equally. So if you did a part today, you don't get a chance to do a part tomorrow until everyone gets a chance, and then we'll start it over again. Okay, this is actually said in our Mishnah. It's the last line in our Mishnah. Although in our Mishnah, it's curious because it seems the Mishnah talks about Shemini Aseret and then has this rule, which it seems like it's a tack on. And this statement also looks like they didn't have it in the Mishnah because, this teaches us a new chidush. So I wonder if this statement was tacked on to the end of the Mishnah at a later point. Okay, good. Now, this is a famous midrash. We use it for derashot on Shemini Aseret. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Haneshibim parim keneged mi. Why does the Torah tell us that we have to have 70 parim over the course of Sukkot? To what do they correspond? Keneged shiv'im umot, correspond to the 70 nations of the world. Par yichidi lama keneged umay yichida. And the one bull that we bring on Shemini Aseret is for Bnei Israel, the single, the unique nation. So in other words, on Sukkot is actually a universalistic, has a universalistic sense that we are praying and hoping for the welfare, the well-being of all the nations of the world. And the Shemini Aseret is the particularist part of the holiday. Mashal, the Melech Basav Adam Shamad le'abadav, asu li seuda gedola. ביום האחרון אמר לו אהבו, עשה לי סעודה קטנה, כדי שאהנה ממך. For example, a king, he makes a big party for all of his servants. But on the last day, he tells his favorite friend, his best friend, let's make a small party, just me and you, so I can enjoy with you alone, right? So you might have a big wedding, but at the end, you just only the immediate family will stay behind for an after party. And so that the nimshal is that Sukkot is a big party Hashem makes with the whole world, and after that's very nice, but afterwards, then he wants to have some special alone time with Bnei Israel, and that's the one part. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Oy hem legoyim she'ibedu ve'en yod'in ma she'ibedu. בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, מזבח מכפר עליהן, ועכשיו מי מכפר עליהן? Amazing statement, right? Woe to the nations, they lost something and they don't even recognize what they lost. When the Beit HaMikdash was up, it didn't only help the Jewish people, it also helped them. Atoned for them. These parim atoned for the sins of the whole world, for all the nations, and they came and destroyed it, not recognizing that they destroyed something that was really benefiting themselves. I mean, this is actually part of the story of the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, that the emperor sent a sacrifice to the Beit HaMikdash, right? And because of some technical detail and because of politics, they didn't offer it on behalf of the emperor, and that's what brought the Romans to say that, oh, look, the Jews have rebelled. See, they won't offer our sacrifice. But otherwise, in general, we did offer sacrifices for anyone who brought them and for the welfare of all the nations of the world. Okay, so this is very nice. It gives us the essence of what these two aspects of the holiday are about, Sukkot and Shemini Aseret. All right, let's just begin a little bit of the next Mishnah. Bishlosha perakim bashana hayu kol mishmarot shavot b'moreh haregalim u'bechelukei lechem hapanim. So on 3 times of the year, meaning the 3 regalim, all the 24 families divided equally the korbanot of the holiday. And what did they divide equally? Emoreh haregalim, the sacrificial parts for the holidays. We're going to ask in the Talmud, Emoreh usually means the parts that are put on the Mizbeach, not the parts that the Kohanim get. So we'll explain this term. And also lechem hapanim, that we bring every Shabbat. Those are divided equally. If whatever Shabbat is during the holiday, all 24 families get to share it. Ba'aseret omer lo helach masa helach chametz. On Shavuot, where you have the not only lechem hapanim but also shteh halechem, and one of them is made out of matzah and one of them is made out of chametz. So you want to divide all of them. So you have to give each family a little bit of matzah and a little bit of chametz for the lechem hapanim and for the shteh halechem. Every family gets a piece of both. Like on Pesach, you have the 2 matzot that you get, the whole and broken one. You got to get a piece of both of them. Mishmar shezemano kavua hu makriv timidin nedarim undavot shad korbanot sibur umakriv et hakol. Nevertheless, even though everybody's sharing, they only share in the communal sacrifices that are related to the holiday. But the family whose regular turn it is, they don't have to share the things that they would have been doing anyway if it wasn't a holiday, like the timidim, the daily 2 offerings, nedarim and nedavot, things that people promise. Whenever they're going to bring them, they're going to bring them. They promised it for whatever reason. So that only gets to the family that's there for that week. They get to do that. And also other korbanot sibur, and we're going to discuss what that includes. That watch sacrifices all of these things on this list but to ecstatic, that not the communal sacrifices that are for the holiday. So there's two different categories. Okay, the Gemara asks that question that I mentioned. Galim ko shel gavahu. What do you mean the offerings of the holidays? That the word emurim means that which goes lagavah, goes on the altar. So then no one's eating it. No one's splitting anything from that. Don't read it the word emureh, but that as innards, but amurim, right? That which the Torah says you must bring for the holiday. That's what that word means. Okay. So lastly, what's the source that all the 24 families get to share equally on the holidays? Talmud Lomar, Uba Bechol Avat. Here is the full Pesukim. So Pasuk says, Ki Yavoh Levi me'achad she'arecha mikol Yisrael asher ugasham. When the Levi wants to come, this is a key word, me'achad she'arecha, from any of your gates, from any of your settlements, and he comes and wants to serve, ve'sheret b'shem Hashem Elohei Yisrael, and so on. The last pasuk, chelik kechelik yochelu levad b'mkarav al ha'avot. He gets an equal share to everyone. So according to this, it says Levi, but means the subset of Kohanim among the Leviim. Anyone who wants to come and serve can get an equal share. So from that we learned that every Kohen is entitled to an equal share. Fine. So that would sound like it's true all year round. Yachol af bishar yemot hashana ken. Can Kohen to show up any day of the year and said, "Hey, I want a piece of that korban that you have there." Talmud Lomar me'achad she'arecha lo amarti ela b'sha'ah shekol Yisrael nichnasin be'sha'ar echad. So from the first pasuk that says when a Levi comes from any of your gate, we read that to mean that this law only applies when everyone's coming in from all the gates, meaning on the Chagim, when everyone's making Aliyah Laregel, and they're all coming into the gates together, right? As if it says Be'achad Sha'arecha, that's when, just like all of Israel's coming, so too all Kohanim have an equal share. But that only applies on the holidays. The rest of the year, that family that was there, their turn, they do not have to share with everybody else. And so this is a nice derasha and law that highlights how special each of the holidays are, that we invite everybody in together, all Bnei Israel, all Kohanim, to come and celebrate as one nation. Baruch Adonai L'olam, amen ve'amen.